Welcome, everyone, to our third coffee chat. We've been doing this since the beginning of April. This is more of a working session, no pitches, no slides, nothing that has been sort of scripted really or prepared, but rather just really a conversation with me and Pam and anyone else who wants to chime in. We decided that it would be good to talk a little bit about operational success and what does that mean. And Pam can really give the pre-sale discussions that she's been having with prospects, and I can give the post-sale experience and conversation with customers once we're doing the kickoff, once we go live, and then what does that look like once these customers are fully using Milagro to the best of their ability. This whole area of coding automation within the hospital space and ambulatory surgery centers, at least for me, is a relatively new space. And what's interesting is with other software that I've worked with, really the conversation, like you said, with the prospects is increasing their confidence that there's a good team on the receiving end, right, that's going to walk them through onboarding, implementation, and then bring them to success. But there are other softwares where at the end of the day, even if you've implemented it, your team doesn't really need to use it, like on the customer side. Our software is different in that once it gets implemented, we really reduce the noise.
Right.
Right? We create a situation whereby things, and like you said, a lot of these customers are inundated, not only with vendors, but like with their actual day jobs. And so what we try and do is through the course of onboarding and implementation is explain and really continue to build that confidence that you started building with them, Pam, about the fact that once they get implemented with Milagro, as we go through each of their subspecialties and take on more of the coding effort, the noise will be reduced.
Right. Yeah, you make a good point because this product is a fully autonomous coding platform. So we want to make our prospects comfortable with that, right? Well, we do a side-by-side testing. We have this team that works with you. We have internal coders. But what we're going to do is you're going to be able to step back from the manual processes. So this isn't an extra step for you. This isn't something that right. Your whole team's going to have to be logging into on a daily basis. And everyone has a new login and people hate a new login. Let's be honest. Do I have one more thing I have to log in when I go into work in the morning? So,
right.
So setting the stage for that too. That's a very important piece. This is fully autonomous coding. We are going to reduce manual tasks. We are going to lower that noise level that you have in your office. And so beginning with that in those initial conversations, just so the group understands. Going forward, these are many conversations we have.
I think this is all very, very important, right? So there, having been in this business for a long, long time, from consulting to being a buyer of technologies as a medical school department chair and medical director, right? And bringing in new technology solutions. What happens way too often and why health systems and their IT teams and their coding teams, et cetera, are cautious and nervous about this is they've experienced a lot of things that were supposed to change their world that either never got fully implemented or got implemented and never adopted.
Right.
And they were excited about it and they put a lot of effort into it and they got a lot of work out of it and a lot of frustration out of it and they lost some beliefs in it, right? So they're skeptical as they should be. And I think it's critical that the implementation process does not take too long, does not drag out. That you move to live production fairly quickly. But as a part of that process, it's not just getting the software up and running, it's helping them understand what they're going to do differently.
Yeah.
And, what they're not going to do anymore, what they still have to do. how that may change over time as well.
Right. Right.
Right.
Yeah. One of the things that Pam brought up is that in conversations with prospects, oftentimes, Pam, you said that you have to talk to them about the change management that's going to take place. And I think in terms of operational success, that change management is exceptionally important, Greg. To your point, right? There may have been false starts, or there may have been technology that had all this promise to it that then didn't actually end up making that change. And one of the things that we discuss post-sale is definitely what are those elements of change management that need to take place? What are the workflows that are currently being used that need to be altered so that the coding automation can step in? It can increase efficiency, it can reduce delays in coding, and then it can, at the end of the day, it can produce a better result for the hospital. So if it's for the revenue cycle team, if it's for the coding team, and at the end of the day, right, it all comes back to the patients, Greg, right?
Yeah,
and does. So, and and it ends up being a better experience overall with the hospital when the hospital can be more efficient in the way it does things.
Yes. Yeah. And I mean, we talk about, the impact of denials on hospitals and providers, but we don't talk nearly enough about the impact of it on patients who get those bills with an expectation that they are now going to pay them from the hospital, who will pursue it to collections. These are really challenging issues for patients, right? And patient satisfaction. When this happens, the patients say, I'm never going back to that facility again.
True.
Right? They blame the doctor, they blame the hospital for getting it wrong.
Yeah.
And, and they're not happy with their insurance, but insurance is a black hole, right? You have no recourse there. Right. So, I think these things are important. We talked about change management, and it's not just identifying what you're not going to be doing anymore, but it's also if you're displacing a coder or a group of coders, right, and they're not going to be there anymore. They're going to be off doing something else, or maybe they move to inpatient coding or whatever, more complex areas we have backlog, or you just don't have them anymore over time. What else were they doing that someone else now has to pick up, right? And we've seen that happen where they had tasks that maybe didn't directly relate to coding even. That may have been a quality task or something else that they're doing. All those things need to get identified as we understand the current state and move to the future state. And those are the sort of things that can derail a process.
Right. Yeah. And I think it's different in every hospital, right? So even if the sales process maybe, and Pam, you can speak to this better than I can, but even if the sales process looks pretty similar, right? We talked at our last meeting about AI governance being a new board or a new review that has come into the sales process, right? And if now we're seeing that across the board at all the other hospitals, what is different at the end of the day within these hospitals is exactly what you said, Greg, which is those processes internally. How are the teams working? What are the different teams that are working together to get that coding done? How do they flow data in and out from the scheduling through the surgery day and the procedure to the notes that come afterwards to the billing that then gets coded and processed? And how does all of that flow in such a way where these efficiencies can be introduced and change management can actually take effect? I was going to say, Pam, are you seeing pretty similar questions and concerns overall?
I think so. So you touched on something. So one size in the health systems, like there's no one size fits all. Every health system's different, right? The sales process, yes, there's a lot of similarities in what we see at the beginning. But I think when we talk about, when we get deeper into these conversations and further along, we need to, when we're talking about change management, that's where it becomes, your health system is unique. Your teams are unique. And you have to, if you don't have that conversation and start identifying those things early on, you can't, it's not a one size. So you have to work with those teams. And then you're giving them the confidence, right? That they need, the confidence in the product that they're looking to deploy. That kind of just specialized, teams and knowing who you're working with and knowing what their processes look like currently. You also want to be, as an industry leader in whatever product you are working for, you want to use best practices so you can lead them and you can guide them, because you're not going to, if there's something that's broken, we're not going to keep doing that. We're going to help them change that. That's part of the change management, right? So just all of these things are just listening and knowing and understanding your customer. That starts in the sales process. That information needs to be passed along. That's like when we say like warm handoffs and working closely together with your team, working closely together with the implementation team, working closely with your customer success team. All of this information can be shared to make sure that customer's needs are truly being met, that the implementation is going the way that is going to work for that team. And yes, there's similarities, I'm sure, in all of the implementations, but everyone is unique. So it's important. And I think that's, again, part of the change management, part of those conversations that you have initially. Change management's a little bit of a buzzword now, I feel, because you're hearing it more and more. But I think that like you said at the beginning of this conversation, Anna, we've worked for we've worked for different software companies in our careers. Yeah. I've found that the most successful ones are the ones that truly do handle a change management piece and have a team that's an extension of their team. And I've used that before in just talking with prospects, right? Like, this team is so good. This team is going to work with you so closely that they're truly an extension of your team. And when you are doing that, you're successful. We're successful as a company, as a vendor, as a software platform. They're successful in the end using a product that they've been implemented properly on, that it's been thoughtfully, deployed. And so it's very important. And all along the way, you're building trust and you're in confidence with that team, with that external team, with that health system team, that, we're here for you. We're going to work with you. We're going to be successful all together.
True. I mean, ultimately, right, a knee replacement is a knee replacement is a knee replacement, whether you're in a surgery center in Texas or in, Virginia or in, I don't know, upstate New York, right? Yeah. So the CPT codes are going to be the same. Maybe even the diagnostic codes are going to be the same.
Sure.
Maybe
the coding's the same. The coding's the same.
Right. But then those workflows may be different, and your EMR or EHR, your electronic medical record keeping system and software may be different. Yeah. And maybe you're a hospital that has already introduced, what do they call them, Greg? The AI dictation, right?
Yeah. Yeah, passive note taking,
right.
Right. But you also have, but even more fundamentally, you have different structures, right? Mm-hmm. Right. You have an academic medical center that has a physician practice group, the faculty of the medical school, right? Right. That are all employed, and all are on the same EHR and working in the same buildings, right? And then you go to, let's say, Medical City, Dallas, which is the largest hospital in the U.S., about 2,000 beds.
Everything is bigger in Texas.
Always, including the egos. So, but a large percent of their surgery practices are not physician. They're not employed, right? These are orthopedic groups that have their own EHR, have their own offices, have their own schedulers, and so and same with general surgeons. Neurosurgeons tend to be employed these days, but orthopedists don't, general surgeons aren't. ENT generally is not. GI is generally not. And these are high volume specialties,
Yeah.
right, for
Yeah.
surgeries. And
Yeah.
so now they've got some office, EHR that you've never heard of. And you have to figure out how to get information back and forth to them as
Right.
well. So there are huge workflow challenges in
Yeah.
understanding all that, because you say, well, we can identify pre-authorization mismatches day of surgery and get those reauthorized, right? But the physician practice has a scheduler who did the pre-authorization and is the person who has to do the reauthorization day of surgery. She doesn't work for the hospital, and they're not on the hospital EHR, right? And
Right.
so how do you manage that? And this is common, right? This is not a one-off kind of deal.
Right.
And understanding the structure of the hospital, the health system, and their physician practices, both employed and non-employed, and how are you going to work with them and benefit us? There's a lot of upfront current state understanding that has to take place maybe before you start implementation.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I was going to
And then it
say,
has to go on and make sure, as a customer success piece, that these things are actually getting done and that they're getting the benefit that they were told they would get if they participated.
right. Right. So I was going to say, one of the things, Pam, about the differences between the health systems is that, and Greg, you tied this in perfectly for me, thank you, is that one of the things that we do, I think, well, is actually do the customization, right? So if a knee replacement is a knee replacement is a knee replacement, regardless of whether or not you're doing it in the biggest hospital in the country or in the smallest one. I'm going to go back to upstate New York. I don't know why, but I am, right? The coding for that may be somewhat similar, but to the point you've both made, it's the change management of the actual workflows for getting that coded and submitted to the insurance companies, or if there is a denial involved, getting it in time to the team that is going to put in that reauthorization so as to recoup that fund and that money for the hospital or the surgery center. That's really where the magic happens, right? It's figuring out what are the customizations that need to be done so that this surgery, which may be a surgery center or a hospital's bread and butter, is actually dealt with in such a way where at the end of the process, it has reduced the noise, it has increased the efficiency, and at the end of the day, the hospital gets paid. And it gets paid for what was done, and it gets paid in a timely manner, and the patient has a better experience overall at the end of the day.
I think that that's an example that we use, that you just used too, about the reauthorization. Dr. Hobbs, you mentioned it too. It's something that, like I said, once we start having conversations, it starts from the very first conversation. Dr. Hobbs, I've been on calls with you when you've asked, who does your pre-auth, and then who, if it needs to be retro auth, is it your schedulers? Because we know some health systems, they send it back to the scheduler, but every health system's different. So on how they do on how the roles are defined. So we need to know that, right? So we need to know that. It's very important, because if we're going to implement something, hey, let's make this make sense. You've got 24 to 48 hours to get a retro auth, says the payer. Let's make sure that is getting to the right person, and we know what teams, and set that up appropriately. So these conversations that like at the very beginning, we're gathering this information. These workflows are very specific to the hospital that we're talking to, and we need to gather all the correct information to make it successful.
Yeah. And ultimately, the teams need to be open to this change management.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. But that comes down to appropriately communicating with them and helping them understand why this is better, how it works, and why it's better, and get them bought in up front,
and
instead of saying, hey, you have to use this now.
Right. Right. And to your point, Pam, at the beginning, right, being an extension of that team, our team working closely hand in hand with the coding team, the rev cycle team, maybe the insurance verification team, if they are also involved in denials and reauthorizations, right? There are many different teams that may need to be involved in the onboarding and the implementation of specialties that we then need to liaise with and work with closely so that we understand the process, we understand our impact, we understand the efficiencies at the end of it, and then we can make sure that everything flows smoothly through that process until we get to live, and then our system is just functioning for them, either with coding automation or with reauthorizations and denials. One thing actually that's exciting coming up in one of our next coffee sessions, we're going to be talking with someone who is deeply involved in revenue cycle for her hospital. She's going to join us and talk about what she thinks success looks like. So her current process for denials and the teams that are involved in her workflow, and how she hopes to integrate Milagro in the process so that they can end up having a more efficient and effective workflow around their denials and reauthorizations. So stay tuned. It's either going to be at the end of this month or coming up in early June. But we will approach our next meeting with hopefully a subject matter expert on hand.
Do we have a question in the audience?
No, I don't have any question. I just adding one point for the Anna Ravvin, right? So I totally agree that if you do not have the proper the expert team for the coding team or any other department, you are not going to be claimed is going to be paid, because in the coding, right? Because when we are doing the coding, there are so many guidelines. We do not focus on the properly on the coding basis guideline. What we have to be, we have to be more focused on the part for the insurance side as well. We have to be look into both insurance as well the coding guideline, because if we did the coding guideline as per the everything is correct, but there is something is not accepted by the insurance, where the claim is no going to be paid anyhow. So what we have to do, we have to be more focused on the part of the insurance side. So yes, there must be expert. For example, if you are appealing for the any claim or for the authorization, right? So if you do not have the proper expertise for the coding, definitely they are going to be help you to how for the knee replacement. They must know how what the equipments has been done, what is the coding guideline we have. So we have to be more on that part. So I totally agree on the Anna Ravvin points. Thanks.
Yeah,
Thank you.
That's a wonderful session.
Thanks. Thank you for joining. Okay, well, I think we're going to wrap this session up. But Pam, it's been a pleasure chatting.
Nice chatting.
I love chatting about operational success and how to get there. And I look forward to talking again in 2 weeks.
Sounds great. Thanks everyone for joining.